Hello, welcome to a slightly different broadcast day on Apex Racing TV. I'm Sam Fitzpatrick, and I am very glad to be joined alongside by Marco Barbanera. Today we're going to be discussing the Season 5 Championship of the EuroV8 Supercar Series, of course sponsored by KSW Painting. And Marco, we saw a superb series. We don't hold back in saying this is our favourite series. It is just so good. The combination of the drivers we got to know really well, the cars are absolutely fantastic. The racing is superb, and it's incredibly well run as well. And yeah, there's no other series I want to be chatting with you about this evening.
Yes, hello everyone. Hello Sam. And yes, I mean this series is well a special place in my heart because it was the first series I've ever commentated on Apex, and it really has cemented as my favorite one that we do. We love every series that we do, but this one is particularly nice because, like we always said, you have to be a great driver not only with a very tough car, the V8 Supercar, but also you have to be good in 3 different disciplines, because you have the super sprint races, the very short sprints, then you have the normal, let's say, feature races, and sometimes we get some enduro thrown in for good measure. So you have to excel in all of the different aspects of racing. And yes, while we talk, of course we're going to have in the background, should be working now, we should have some videos from the very first and very last meetings of the season, Silverstone first and then Brands Hatch in the end. It was, this season also, this series, Sam, doesn't run through the iRacing, inside one iRacing season, but it goes basically for half the year. So these guys have been racing for around 6 months, and in the end Johnny Brandon was a deserving champion, I think, after just missing out last season on the title.
Yeah, definitely, and I think that's what we'll go on to first. The fact that, of course, going into the season, the amount of competitive drivers that we had this Silverstone round, that of course will be on in the background, you can't appreciate how many great drivers. And I think, Brandon, after losing out so narrowly to Avdoka, not through lack of pace, I'd say, Marco, because he won more races. He won 7 races, I believe, in season 4 to Avdoka's 4, I think, with Klusman, I think, also claiming 5. It was Avdoka's consistency. And I think if we didn't know already, I think, Brandon knew going into season 5 that he had to improve on that consistency. And I think he really did aim for that. I don't think he was looking as though he wanted to win every single race. He was looking just to accumulate the points. And I think that's how he, in the end, came out on top.
Exactly. Consistency was what was missing from him in season 4, which I commentated from halfway through, so I only got the back end of the season. But I remember that one of the very first things you told me in the booth at Bathurst in season 4 was Johnny Brandon is very quick, but he's missing the consistency, and he found that missing ingredient. I don't think that the fact that Michael Evdoka didn't come back to defend his title is going to be something that devalues Brandon of his title, because I think with the lessons he learned and being a very quick driver, he would have won the title regardless. And besides that, still, without the defending champion in the field, he had to fend himself from 2, 3, 4 very tough drivers like Foggy, Klusterman, McKnight, and also until Laguna Seca with Chris Jackson, and then had to retire from the series due to technical problems. It has been a season where Brandon won, but the contenders were there, and they put him under pressure until the final meeting at Brands Hatch.
Yeah, absolutely. We had, I'd say, I think probably a good 10 potential race winners, I think, or past race winners. Because at Silverstone, I think that was the strongest lineup. We didn't actually have Cracknell at Silverstone either, and yet we still had, I think I remember it being 9 super quality drivers on the grid, which was absolutely awesome to see. And, you said how, Avdoka, he didn't come back to defend his title. He came back for race 1 and 2. He spoke to me afterwards and said they kind of fallen out of love with the car. It was nothing to do with the series. He just didn't enjoy the V8 too much. Just couldn't really, didn't feel as though it was kind of realistic to kind of carry on much longer. So he decided to pull out. But in that first round and in that first race, it was Johnny Brandon taking away the victory. And then I think in race 2, I think he got second place as well. So there's no doubt that right at the start of the season, he was right on top form.
Absolutely, and we saw in that second race especially, this season the races were just a bit shorter, both the sprint and the feature race. And in the second race, actually, I remember at Silverstone we saw a couple of drivers going for the no stopper and unbelievably making it through the end. I don't know if we will be able to catch a glimpse of this in the background if we go to race 2, but still, like you said, we always talk about potential winners every time we commented on a series, and I always say that this series is the one which has the most possible winners every race day. There's the possibility of having 4 or 5 guys that can absolutely run for the overall win, and that's basically what we saw this season because all of these guys traded wins, race in and race out, and the consistency was once again what made it possible for Johnny Brandon to bring on the title. And also, like I would like to say, it's the switch from the Holden to the Ford was what was maybe the missing. He said that was the master stroke, the missing ingredient, and I think it was. But of course, for those that don't know this, it's the cars are equal. It's just like the NASCAR race cars on iRacing. The only changes are aesthetic. So the performance, the setups are interchangeable, but still, it was nice to have Fords in front of the field. Though I was a little bit concerned, Sam, because in the Race of Champions, Johnny was racing with an Holden once again. But I think that was due to the fact that they didn't want to do the Christmas livery twice. So
Right, that's
because Foggy
understandable, yeah.
Foggy also had the Christmas livery and his teammate, but which we have to remember. But racing with the Holden Commodore. So. I mean, it was nice to see 2 teammates slug it out for the season championship, Brandon and Foggy, and without, they didn't hold back. That's what I want to say. I mean, they both went and fought wheel to wheel very respectfully, and there were no team orders. A lot of respect, but some hard racing between the teammates and, of course, with Tony and Jamie McKnight and all the other guys as well.
Yeah, it was an awesome battle. Just on that note of race 1, I seem to remember Silverstone. We've learned on Apex Racing TV, tough circuit to take on. There's not really a long enough straight to really get an insane slipstream on, and there's just not enough braking zones either. So we didn't see too much overtaking race 1. Race 2, though, was awesome. You've already mentioned, Marco, how we had Taliancic and maybe one other driver go for the no stopper, and it pretty much lost out for them in the end. But it was a close call. We weren't quite sure what the rules were on that either, so it was a bit of a craziness after the race. But I also remember how Gantar, I think, went on the tyres a little bit late on. It was awesome to have him around for the first couple of rounds of the season as well. And he just couldn't quite get the moves done in the end, and in the end he kind of got pushed out a bit. And I think that race maybe showed that you can't just have good pace, you can't just have good racecraft, because there are so many incidents, and it was kind of just about, picking up those positions where you can. And I think Jamie McKnight, after we'd seen him really come on strong at the end of season 4, started that season 5 really well at Silverstone. I think it was only like a 6th and a 5th, but the fact that he seemed to be like the 9th fastest driver out on circuit kind of showed how, he really overperformed, and that kind of set the tone for his season. Whilst other drivers, maybe like Avdoka and Gantar, and even Jackson as well, I'd throw in there, just threw in a couple of mistakes, and that all-round consistency perhaps was just lacking from them, as it maybe lacked from Branton the season prior.
Yeah, as we say, by the way, hello to Chris Jackson and Sam Busin that are following us live in the chat, and they are already looking forward to season 6, which is due to start in, I think, a few weeks' time with the media day and all the rest of
Yeah,
the.
I think
Yeah,
it's 7th of January. I
yes.
think
So,
starts.
a much needed rest for these guys, and chance to celebrate the new year, and then we are back at it again in January. Also, we are going to have a nice double header for me because in the 6th of January is a national holiday here, and on the 7th, Monday, we can start. Let's see, because 7th is a Monday, so maybe they're starting in the
Okay,
weekend
maybe 5th, I
fifth.
think.
So either way, it's a double header, and on the morning of the 6th of January, we get all sorts of sweets, candies, chocolate. If we have behaved, if we've been good boys, and also I will probably get EuroV8s as well in the basically in this big sock. You get a big sock, and in the night, there's this old lady that comes, this mythical figure comes and puts all sorts of stuff there. If you have been a good boy, if
Hang
you've
on,
been
so
a
you have like 2 Christmases?
this is one, let's say Christmas light, because you only get like stuff to eat. Basically, you only get chocolate.
Okay, well, that's the best present I ever get for Christmas,
Yeah.
personally. I don't know about
Uh,
you, Mark.
but yeah, and this is basically the holiday that signifies the end of the Christmas holidays, and because after that it's Easter, the next one we have. So, but yeah, while I talk, I'm looking for the calendar, and it should be somewhere. Uh, I will get back with that when I find it, because I'm sure I had it somewhere, uh, with all the races for next season. But just to confirm that we are going to start next season very early. And I remember also there's going to be a race at in a super sprint in Japan. It's the 12th, 5th of January, media day. Thank you, Sam Busin. And on the 12th of January, we're going to have the start of the season. And in that season, we are going to have a super sprint at the new release circuit of Tsukuba, which brings me to the super sprint in Japan that we had this season, Sam, which was very, very, very interesting.
Yes, you can say that. So going into that round, of course, it was quite a tie between Klosterman and Branton, with the others all queuing up behind, and we knew that we had a good championship. But what we saw at Okayama short, by the way, I think with the track with about 5 hairpins and 6 corners overall, it was not what we want to see after a relatively clean race 1. I seem to remember. I think race 2 and 3 had horrendous paths. We've actually got a highlights video, I think, of that on the channel. Of course, check that out after this. But it was absolutely terrible. And I think Mark, I think that was probably the low point in the season. A few doubts within the community, I think, a few harsh words being called across. But I think after that, I think maybe that made the whole, series a little bit stronger. I think the racing really improved after that. And I think much cleaner racing, pretty much from that point onwards in the season.
Yes, it was. You were right. Race 2, the one where we didn't only have a pile up in the first corner. Sorry, into the second corner, because it was basically the corner that brings the short track back, cutting across, no, into the double left-hander at Revolver, and also we had a crash at the hairpin corner after that, and another mega crash at the right-hander that goes up the hill. So basically, we had 3 separate crashes in the first lap, and it was complete carnage. And you were right, but the difference between it's rare that we see the voice getting raised and people barking at each other in this series, and it's it never happens, and it is for a reason, because the racing is always hard but clean. And when it happens, no, a series can go into different direction. It can go in a direction of, you know, every race there's people complaining, moaning, and insulting each other after the race, and then there are series that say, okay, that was terrible, let's not do it again. And the EuroV8 luckily went for the second option, never do it again, and the drivers were able to you know, learn from their mistakes, because I don't think there was a single driver that was innocent in that, because with 3 crashes, I mean, a lot of things went wrong, and the series learned from it and they moved on, and we had a very very enjoyable rest of the season after that. But that for a moment, because you know, even coming halfway through in the previous season as a commentator, I didn't remember anything of the sort in the EuroV8 Championship. Maybe the combination was early season, so a lot of entrants, like you said, a track with a lot of hairpins, a lot of corners, and not a lot of space, and a reverse grid for race 2. That was the perfect mix, unfortunately, for what happened in race 2.
Yeah, it was very disappointing to see that. But I think on a high point, well, I'll combine a high point and a low point of that meeting. The high being the entrance of Michael Cacknell. I believe he won race 2 that day, I think, and really started a championship campaign which lasted beyond the midpoint in the season, pretty much until he was forced out, unfortunately, and due to I think technical issues. Hopefully, we'll see him back. And then, of course, the low point. Of course, Michael Abdok, unfortunately, leaving the season. Of course, as I've already explained, unfortunately, his didn't fell out of love with the car. But yeah, that entrance of Michael Kettner kind of came out of nowhere. I feel, Marco, because yeah, we hadn't really heard of this guy before, and he waltzes in and goes and wins race 2. And whilst he did miss race 1, so he was always a little bit one step behind in the championship, he was really impressing from the very start.
Absolutely. And we only have in this series one drop round, and you cannot drop the final round. So if you start already with, missing the first round, it's going to be tough to, basically you are not allowed to miss any other round. And in a series where, like we said, consistency is key, that is not something that you can afford. And sadly, we have seen this. And, with no showdown or playoffs or chase, go to the end of the season, the driver with the most points wins the championship. So it's never easy to start already, behind in the standings, just right at the beginning of the season. So that is something that certainly drivers will try to avoid going forward. And also, I think something that can be interesting going forward, and so this car they have headlights. We might see, and they did this in real life this season in the real V8 Supercar Championship in Australia. They did a night race, and maybe, and also they did like a twilight race in Melbourne. That due to basically massive storm, it basically became a night race. And as you know, the Albert Park circuit doesn't have track lights, and they still managed to finish the race. If you go catch that race somewhere, because it was amazing with the flooded track, and driver getting his very first career win with the super mega champion of the series following him, basically as close as possible for basically the entire race. So I think we might get one twilight round, one my dream, but I think this is very very dangerous, is to have a race in Bathurst that, just like the 12 hours, starts at dawn and then gets into the day. But sadly, we don't have the endurance at Bathurst this season. We have a classic sprint plus feature. We have one endurance at Le Mans, and the other is at the Charlotte Roval, which also has lights around the track. So maybe that could be the night race that we get.
Yes, that would be wise. I think Kim Jong Whiting has already stated how he plans on utilizing the times 8 day-night transition. So of course, 3 hours equals a day with that mate. And well, I think if anyone's going to use that mate, he is going to be the one. That would be absolutely awesome. I think, yeah, Charlotte Road. That's probably quite an obvious one to use it on. And just a couple of Twilight races would be absolutely superb. Also, with the it would probably work best in an endurance race because the only way to set a precise time for for each race is by using the beta UI, and that's a bit fiddly with the reverse grid, so that could be a little bit of a block. But certainly for the enduros should work very well. I think moving on to round 3. So I think going into round 3, it was Brandon leading the championship a little bit, but once again, everyone else was very close behind. A couple of really good performances. I remember Dominic Sawicki was one of the top drivers at this point. And then Belle Isle happened, Marco. For me, race of the season. Uh, First time we'd ever done a broadcast at Belle Isle, and boy, did it deliver.
It was fantastic. I mean, that was a crazy, crazy event, and these drivers were put, in a very, very tough test because for the first time we had a race in a. I mean, yes, we had Long Beach, which was the final race before Apex Racing TV changed forever for the worse because I became a commentator. And I remember watching that, but Long Beach is nice and it's cool, but Detroit has another stuff because Long Beach, a work in progress track. You don't have the scenery. You don't have it's a bit. Have you seen a video of a guy running at night with the Porsche
Oh, no,
911?
I haven't. Oh, that must be weird.
It's nightmare fuel basically. I mean, it's like running in a ghost town. I don't know because the all the structures are this like white color but like a fading color, and it seems
Oh.
like you are. Oh man, don't watch it before going to sleep. Uh, yeah, I mean. Belle Isle was fantastic, and the track. For those that don't know, these cars in real life do many street circuits, so they are also designed to do this kind of races, and it provided to be a perfect match, I think, especially because the drivers were able to adapt to the situation after taking. We didn't have any huge crash. For example, I remember in the a few weeks later in the BSRTC Pro Series, the round at Belle Isle wasn't as clean as this. I remember two mega pileups into the first corner. The worst or best, depending on your point of view, thing that I remember from this round, crash wise, was Josh Thompson hitting the barrier into the final straight, doing a barrel roll, landing on four wheels.
Oh, that
Eh,
was lovely.
that was a crazy moment because that wall, basically, I think it had a little bit of a bug, but the class and the style to do a barrel roll and land on all four wheels was something else.
Yeah, he's decent around that circuit, actually, Josh Thompson. I remember BSR Grand Tour. I think you weren't actually here, Marco, but you managed to avoid a huge wreck, which was very impressive. So we're seeing a few great races around there. And of course, in race 1, I was just looking to see who won race 1 because race 1, in the grand scheme of things, in comparison to race 2, was quite forgettable. But it was actually Johnny Branton winning race 1. And boy, did that change in race 2. He had a steering wheel failure in race 2. And we also saw Foggy having an off after having the race in the bag. I remember he was about 10 seconds ahead, managed to go down an escape road, had to do like a 180, got back going eventually. We had Kloosterman making a mistake, hitting the wall before his pit stop, along with having a couple of other spins. I think Jackson had issues in race 1. And in the end, it was Mr. Reliable, Jamie McKnight, coming out on top and taking the lead of the championship in the end, in his first ever win in the series. It was awesome to see. One of the races that really fixes in my mind as a Apex Racing TV commentator. And yeah, it was a triumph for not the fastest driver, I think, Marco, but just the most consistent. He'd racked up the points up to that point, was running pretty well that day in terms of pace as well. And yeah, managed to take a huge chunk out of Brandon's lead and led the championship after 3 meetings.
Yes, Jimmy not only is one of the, the more reliable drivers and one of the, he has been basically a mainstay of the series for a long time, but also I think he's one of the craziest drivers because he offered me to race with him in the next team enduro that they are going to do, and it takes a lot of guts to ask me to do a race because I've never completed a lap with these cars. But how can I say no? So uh, you know. Luckily, he's very, very, goes for, yeah, he's quick, but also goes for the, reliability and the consistency because I think he will be very disappointed with my pace, especially with this car. But I mean, we still don't have. I think it's going to be in the summer because we had the enduro in June or July last season at Road America, if I'm not mistaken. So we are going to have another one later in 2019. So I have time to practice. Hopefully, hopefully I
You're
can
gonna
get
need more than 6 months, Marco. Sorry.
not only that, but also I would like for the league organizers to give me just a hint of where the race is going to be, so I can start practicing like today.
Yes.
uh,
Figure out
b-
all the glitches with the circuit to find some shortcuts. Unfortunately, I think that's going to
yeah.
be your best chance. Um, but yeah, yeah, that'll be needed. I've also said that I'll jump along, maybe an Apex Racing TV team. So I don't know. That could be an idea. We'll have to wait and see. We've also got Sam Kuma, actually. He could do it. Alex Simpson, he's not a very good driver, so I'll probably kick him out. He doesn't want to be around us. So, yeah, that will be certainly a plan. But yeah, so Belle was complete. Round 3 of the championship. And then we headed into Spa. Unfortunately, I was around Silverstone in the World Endurance Championship for Spa, so I actually missed that one. Did watch it live though. Tried to contribute. I don't think I was much help on the chat. But yeah, that was back to the establishment, I think, Marco. Johnny Brandon was absolutely superb. XVR generally were very quick. And on my notes, which I'm sure I shared with you, I also said Foggy lost out in qualifying because I think in that first half of the season, Nicole Foy was making a few, costly mistakes. Silverstone, he had a couple of poor qualifyings generally in qualifying. He was very poor at the start of the season. And I think when we look back at the season, 120 points between the two XVR drivers in the end. The round that he missed later on, of course, didn't help. But this starts of the season where he was just making the occasional mistake. He managed to cut them out, but I think that's the factor of first season. It always takes a few rounds to kind of get into the mix of it. And Nicole Foggy at Spa, I think, kind of epitomized that. Had superb pace, equal pace to Brandon, but could only come away with third in the race in the end.
He also Foggy was, in the midst of a title battle in World GT at the time, title that then he
Yes.
won. Also, he was getting acquainted and in a big fight to get in the showdown for the BSRTC Pro Series. So Johnny had the possibility to mainly focus on getting the title home in the EuroV8s, whilst Foggy was had chances in all three championships, so he had to sadly the time to practice is limited and you have to pick where you want to concentrate in the end of the day. So and I remember the World GT season ending around September, October, so it was basically before even the EuroV8 season went into the halfway point or something like that. So it was it's something that we have to consider, of course, because yes, sim racing gives us the possibility to jump in many, many different cars in a very quick time, but that also is a drawback because, driving a V8 supercar, driving a Kia, and driving, a GT3 car, three completely different things to do. So it gets. I mean, when I jump from the IndyCar to let's say the NASCAR tracks, and it seems like I'm driving a completely different kind of race car. So and I do this, just for fun. So I imagine these drivers trying to squeeze out every last 100th of a second from their laps, 1,000th of a second, sorry, out of it is to switch. So that was the enduro, the first enduro of the season, and I remember that it went by very, very quickly. It was an absolute pleasure to commentate on, and there were some great battles all over the field. Spa-Francorchamps proved to be a very nice track for these V8 supercars. So I don't think we are going back next season. No, we are
No,
not.
it's only Bathurst repeating. That's it's in every season.
Oh yeah, well that makes sense. Yes. Yeah, I didn't notice that. Yeah, only one track is repeating, and of course, it's Mount Panorama. So it makes sense, and like I'll keep the schedule fresh, I think. So, but yeah, it was a very very nice proper endurance race, and after that we moved to I think my favorite round of them all. That was Phillip Island, and that was I think I especially if I'm not mistaken, race one was absolutely fantastic. And once again, when you bring these cars to an Australian track, you get more often than not some fantastic racing.
Yes, definitely. It was both races were really good. We've actually got a highlights video as well of race two on our Facebook page, so check that out after this, of course. But in my notes, which I wrote, I said Kloosman loses first race with error. So yeah, he was leading the way. NQR turned up and were absolutely insane, absolutely flying along casually. Jackson and Kloosman were on top form, leading 1-2. Kloosman, they spun round. I think he finished third in that race. And it was a race, I think, where we kind of hyped up how much Kloosman needed to win. He'd had a couple of poor rounds. Bellal made quite a few mistakes, actually, after a really good Silverstone, a solid Okayama, was unlucky at Okayama, but then Bellal and Spark made his own mistakes and didn't finish particularly high up. And for a driver of his pace, he was really underperforming at this point. And then Phillip Island again spinning in race one. But it gave Chris Jackson the master of Phillip Island. He's won 2 races in the EuroV8, and they've both been at Phillip Island. Season 3 at Phillip Island, and then season 5 as well. I don't know what it is about that circuit, but he won that one. Kind of maybe started back his title charge, but it didn't last too long. But yeah, just really odd how a driver can just be so good around a certain circuit. And I guess NQR absolutely nailed that setup because they were so good in that race one.
Yeah, I remember they were absolutely on the money setup wise in that race event. It was super super fun. Also, we had the debut of Alex Mas in that race as
Of
well, and
course.
he had a very very good showing. So, and of course, we will hear more about him next season as well because as expected, when you are new to the car and you are fast, but you are still new to the car, you are more likely than not to experience ups and downs, good races, bad races, mistakes. The mistakes are the thing that really kills you, and they are very useful, I think, in the end, especially if you come midway through the season. So you are not fighting for the championship, but you are just putting experience in the bag for next season. We saw that with many many different drivers that it took them 1-2 seasons before they got to their full potential. And I talked to Alex after the final race, and he said that he was coming back for next season for sure. So, and I'm very happy because I think he could be one of the stars of the series in the future. So, a guy to keep an eye on, definitely. I think, yeah, experience. We said that a lot. It's definitely a factor for this championship. And it's a car where it's tough to get experience in this car, Sam, because there are not many official races in the official series, and most of them are very early at morning for us that live in Europe. So the EuroV8 is, I think, the only chance that guys from our part of the world, or maybe also North America, because we have some North American drivers, Tony Klusterman, for example, the only, possible time slot that is suitable for us, and also in a very relaxed league environment, like we said, with setup sharing and people giving each other tips, tricks, and all that stuff. And so even though you race every 2 weeks, so it takes time to get acquainted with the car, not only driving but also driving in the pack and making overtakes, which is very, very tough.
Yeah, definitely. And I think, Alex, he kind of bundled into the into that bit by race, probably his strongest race of the season, I'd say, because he came in with so much pace. Was really impressive. I think he was running up in third place in race two, which we'll move on to, because what a race two that was. Insane first couple of laps. Absolutely. We had the NQR drivers crashing into each other. We had Brandon spinning twice, I think. McKnight was leading the race, I remember. Tried to go for a move on Brinson O'Brien, I believe it was. But it may have been someone else, I'm not quite sure. And managed to spin from the lead. And in the end, just opened up for two guys, Michael Cracknell and Nicole Foggy. Cracknell winning, Foggy second. And with Brandon finishing quite a low down. Again, a race where he didn't really do too much wrong, Jamie Brandon, was horrendously unlucky. I think I even said to him in the interview, surely your bad luck's run out. And I think it probably had at that point, because the rest of the season he was pretty fortunate with the reverse wheels and whatnot. But of course, in that race too, Cracknell winning. And up to that point, he really hadn't had a bad race marker. Of course, Miss Silverstone, as we'd already said, was on a little bit of a back foot, but was absolutely superb. And all of a sudden, we exited that Phillip Island round with Brandon leading the way only just over Cracknell, Foggy, and McKnight, with Jackson and Kliesman still pretty much in the championship, a little bit further behind. And I think that was probably the most tense point in the season, because we really didn't know what was going to happen from that point. And different drivers kind of had different strengths and weaknesses, and different momentum levels as well going into the next few rounds.
Yes, and basically we were beginning the midway to the back end of the season in that round, because going to next round in Road America, where we also had, like I said, the enduro earlier, basically between season 4 and season 5. And also, by the way, if you guys have time, and we are not talking about this, but I suggest you go and catch the media day for season 5, which was absolutely fantastic at Montreal.
Yes.
It was a triple header 1 week before the Silverstone round, so go check that absolutely. And of course, Media Day is coming back for next season 6 as well. So Road America, some drivers had the experience of running there in the team endurance in the mid season in the season 4 season 5 break. And some drivers did not have that, and we just had a regular, sprint and feature 2 race event, where Cracknell took the title lead, and it wasn't all good for him, because he also had his first crash of the season in like you said, this is where Johnny Brandon then probably turned this season around after getting the reverse grid pole and then getting in race to the championship lead back.
Yeah, that was absolutely massive. I think it was. I think he got tapped around in race one again, an incident which wasn't his fault, by Kloosterman, I believe. Who actually won that race one? I frantically look on the score sheets. I believe it was Foggy actually winning that race one. I think Kloosterman tapped around Brandon. He finished quite far down, 14th, I believe. And what's the reverse grid? 14. I think he got that position as well on the final lap as well. And for me, at least, that was the turning point, because he got pole position. Easy race to win. And as you said, Marco, first setback for Michael Cracknell. Up to that point, he hadn't had a single crash, I believe. and from championship lead, he lost 150 points to Johnny Brandon in that one race alone. And yeah, I think that was pretty much the midway part of the season. Race 12 of 23. So it was. And yeah, that really just changed the complete dynamic. And from that point on, it turned from a four-way battle for the championship into kind of two-way battle because Jay McKnight, I think, may have even been leading the championship coming out of that round. I'm not quite sure. But yeah, once Brandon got that race win, it was pretty much no more bad results for him, I think. And he, yeah, managed to take the title home a few months later.
Yes, especially because then in the next round at Summit Point we had a surprisingly very calm triple header super sprint, and there Johnny Brandon had some very good results in the end because he was able to score a lot of points with Foggy not being present in the race. He was not there, and basically in that round, I think if I'm not mistaken, Brandon scored I think a race win, and then he scored a third and a second, if I'm not mistaken. So
I think it was 2 seconds,
two
and he picked
seconds,
up some. I
some
think he
bonus
picked up
points, yeah.
20 points in bonus points
Yeah.
as
So
well
so
due
so
to the instance.
getting to the final, to the checkered flag in a super sprint event in all three races is a win just to begin with. Now, because a lot of things can happen, and that is not always down to bad driving, but also not to luck, circumstance, reverse grid. A lot of stuff can happen. But not only that, but he gets three podiums in a super sprint event in a chaotic track like Summit Point. Well, that was a statement from Johnny saying that was when you start getting into the groove and getting consistent results, that is probably the signs that you are onto something. You are probably on the right track. Where you can then bring home a championship, and of course Foggy not being there, in an event where he probably could have been close to Brandon, if not even faster, because like we said, reverse grids are plenty. Could have been a different story at the end of the season, but it's always the guys that are not there. It's their fault. I always like to say, no, if you don't show, you have no. And I think Nicole knows this, of course, that there is no reason to complain, and Johnny then won. Basically, from then onwards, he was the clear favorite of the season.
Yeah, he kind of built up a bit of a margin, didn't he? Because for the first time, McKnight's challenge kind of faltered a little bit. Just looking at the points here, decent race one for Jamie, but then he lost 40 points to Johnny in race two, and then about 60 points to Johnny in even 70 points to Johnny in race three. So all of a sudden, sitting quite far back. And of course, at this point in the challenge, it was pretty important for Brandon not to have a bad round. He'd already had two very bad rounds at Belle Isle and Phillip Island, so he really couldn't risk it too much, and that was pretty much McKnight's worst round of the season to that point. Policeman drove decently as well, I think taking home a race victory, but wasn't really enough for him in the end. And yeah, then we moved on to Laguna Seca, which again, unfortunately, I wasn't around for this. Where was I for this round? I
I
think
think the
that may have been
GFX.
PGFX. Yeah, there
Yeah,
you go.
I was
Getting
commentating
tips
with
on the roof.
yeah, I
Um,
was commentating with Chaz in that round, and I remember, linking to what you just said about Johnny being consistent in this round is two rivals after McKnight's demise, were Foggy and Klusterman, and they both won a race and both had a third place. But Johnny Brennan was second both in the first and the second race, so he put many valuable points in the bank. Even though his rivals were winning, he was always there. And in one race, he lost some points towards one but gained on the other, and vice versa in race three. So basically, what this Laguna Seca round did was to keep everything as it was, but with one round less. And when then you go to to the final part of the season, because after this we only had 3 races, but with one being an enduro, so with a lot of points on offer. You want to get as many points as possible in the bag, and when the races are less and less, if you just can keep the situation as it was before, but with less races to go, it's a win for you because your opponents have less opportunities to catch up to you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've only just noticed something, but Brandon, well, he didn't win round 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, or 20. And yet we think of that as he won the championship in those rounds, which is crazy to think, really. That, he went into Brands Hatch, going after Road America, of course, wasn't particularly dominant, but then just that consistency over the next few rounds. Only won one race in the next 4 meetings. And yeah, that was pretty much enough for him to build up that gap. And yeah, of course, Laguna Seca, had the incident for McKnight as well. That really kind of ruled him out in the end. And Kliesman, of course, just with his mistakes earlier on in the season, was too far back at that point, and Foggy didn't really have the pace advantage to really go and chase him down. So at this point, it was very much advantage Brandon. And I think also maybe the change of the championships, as I said, Brandon didn't win any of these races. And going into Bathurst, he was thoroughly beaten. I don't think there's any doubt in saying, Marco. I think Foggy won that one pretty easily with Kliesman in second, McKnight with a decent performance. I think Pete Howard was very impressive that day as well. And yeah, there were a couple of good drives up there. But, once again, just Brandon doing everything he needed to do. It was odd to see him being beaten so comprehensively. He seemed to be like the fifth fastest driver out there, but he didn't need to do any more than that. And that really put him in a good position with a couple of rounds to go.
Yes, by the way, I don't know if it is showing to you as well, but I'm getting subtitles for the for the video I'm putting on. I have no idea why.
Oh, I'm
So
not getting that. What? You're getting subtitles?
yes, there are subtitles, and I'm trying to
Oh.
stop
Oh
them.
no, I've got them now. I got
Oh
them.
dear, and they are the YouTube nightmare subtitles because
They're
you know.
so bad.
Yeah. Okay, let's switch back to to something else then because
So
okay.
alongside, apparently I said, Sam Kuma on the cameras today. I also said Curly at some point. Oh, this is brilliant. I'm just going to commentate on this now. This is Johnny Branston.
I have no idea why I'm getting subtitles for this. Okay, let's go back to the splash screen of
Oh.
Apex Racing TV, which is thank you, Samuel, for uh, okay, the beauty of being live, we say in Italy, that when there's a live, show or something like that, and something goes wrong, they always say it's the beauty of being live, which is a nice way to put when you do something very very stupid, or in this case, I I have to check what happened because I have no idea. No idea how is that possible to have subtitles on the video that I got from I got it from our page as well as the other video.
That's never
Okay,
happened to me
there
before,
we
where it's
go.
randomly.
There is a subtitle file in the video folder. So yeah,
Why is it downloaded that?
I have no idea. I'm trying to remove it from the folder so it doesn't show, but it's a tough thing to do because it says that I'm still using the file, which is of course not true. Maybe now it's working. Let's see. No, it's not. Okay, we'll continue with the review, and I will
Yes.
try to work with this in the background.
Yeah, we'll discuss it with Sam Kuma later on, and maybe he'll be able to find a fix.
Okay, so we were talking about the endurance race there, and it was it was a fantastic drive from Foggy. Like you said, Brandon was able to um, limit the damage is an understatement. He was able to do what he needed to do, and that was getting some good points in the bag. And in the end, it was another very good endurance race. The walls caught out a lot of the drivers. For example, if I'm not mistaken, Tony was leading and then he hit the wall,
Yes.
and
Yeah,
he had
pretty much
some.
cost him the race.
Yes, exactly. Because yeah, even though we get and we see these the drivers get um, a fast repair in every race, if you get some big damage early in an endurance race, it's it's tough because you are then forced to adjust your strategy, maybe do one pit stop more than your opponents. So, and that is probably, if I'm not mistaken, you then have to pick: do I do one stop more but get the damage repaired, or do I wait until it's my time to do the pit stop, but I'm very slow, and in battles potentially just having a slightly damaged car can be a disaster, especially in the mountain section, as the video is starting again, so hopefully we don't have any weird subtitles now.
Oh, I hope we do.
I will keep an eye on that.
Yeah, so yeah, of course, yeah, Tony hit the wall. And I think, if anything, that race, for me at least, epitomizes Tony's season because lightning quick in qualifying, lightning quick through the race, and for one reason or another, just through a tiny mistake, maybe just overdriving slightly, it cost him the race victory because he hit the wall on the opening lap, coming down the mountain, and pretty much left him a sitting duck against his rivals. I think then made contact with Foggy whilst trying to defend and dropped down to fifth position, then had to try to make up a few positions later on. So it was a tough meeting for him, and pretty much if his championship wasn't over, I think it was over a few rounds previously. So it was certainly over there. And well, I'm just watching this, Mark. I don't see any subtitles.
Yeah,
I'm
seems to
I'm
be
disappointed.
working. Well, I have the file saved, so if you want it, I will send you.
Oh,
Oh no,
I will.
you know what you can do is, because I think it got the subtitles that YouTube generates automatically. So if you just open the video, the Branzach video later on our YouTube page, and you put the automatic subtitles on, you're going to get
Yes.
them and have some. I am very scared because I don't think that it had problems. Getting what you were saying and your English, so I have no idea how is it going to translate the stuff I'm saying, because I don't think it is programmed to get the very strange English of an Italian guy. So I certainly will go and catch that later, because I think there are some laughs to be had, because it's going to be something. And now I think this thing is available for every video we do. So potentially there is a gold mine of silly stuff waiting to happen in on our channel. So yeah. Oh
I
man,
feel like what we could do is get the voiceover and then just repeat what. Sorry, get the subtitles and then just repeat what the subtitles say, what we say, and then re-commentate the race, basically, whatever YouTube says, and pretty much, yeah, bring it to life that way. That's a potential idea, and yeah,
yeah,
certainly would be something. But
nightmare stuff as well. So
of course, if there's any
yeah,
questions on the chat that you'd like to ask us about the season, please do, and we'll try to address it, of course. But I think that's pretty much Bathurst finished. And then Sebring, the race that both of us missed. So we're going to be a little bit clueless with this one. But of course, I think it was once again the trio, Foggy, Klusman, and Brandon, ever so close in race one. Brandon actually binned it into a wall. Foggy absolutely faultless, Klusman as well. But in the end, managed to come back really strongly. Did Brandon? That was maybe a point in the season where the championship could have got a little bit spicy. I think after that race one, you had Foggy closing the gap to about under 100 points, I believe. and also Johnny starting behind him. So you think if maybe if Foggy had managed to take the win with Brandon only in third, the championship could have been down to about 60 points with one meeting to go, but instead Brandon came back strongly in that race too, got the race win, Klosterman second, Foggy only third. And I think that pretty much killed it off for Foggy. He was Brandon's last rival. And yeah, after that, he was about 120 points behind, which was far too much to catch.
We have a question, and from Samuel Buzin, he says, "Which one is just Draco's favorite car?" And I can respond because it's my favorite car as well. It's the Sia car. So
Yes.
that was a a good question to ask because it gives some exposure to the Sia guys, which are of course always there. And I think, of course, I'm using Dominic Soare. And the other question is asking us is which one was our favorite race. And for me, I think it was the Phillip Island round. And I think in your case, Sam, it's the earlier round that we had in Belle Isle, I think.
Yes, you are 100% correct. But a lot of I was going to do a highlights of this race of the season. A lot of people like Sebring. Apparently, the midfield racing was absolutely superb. So I'll have to rewatch that one because that was meant to be immense. So yeah, that I think that was probably the drivers' race of the season. But yeah, of course, first Belle Isle and Phillip Island. In the end, it's difficult to choose. I think Silverstone was pretty good as well with the competitiveness. Okayama was crazy. Mid America was pretty good actually. That race one in particular. So yeah, it's very difficult to choose. And yeah, any other championship, I think for maybe the fifth best race of the season would be the best. But yeah, really have been spoiled in season 5.
Yeah, you of course missed the GFX because you were sorry, you missed Sebring because you were at the GFX, so you had a perfectly
Yes.
good reason. Whilst I was at the WWE event in Rome that evening, so I wasn't as professional.
It
You had a
wasn't in a coliseum, was it? I assume it wasn't. That's
it
just not a thing yeah.
it could be a great idea if the Colosseum wasn't basically falling apart and didn't have no
Yes.
floor anymore because they destroyed it many centuries ago. They if you go inside, they created just like one third of the original pavement has been, let's say, recreated so you can stand there and be around it. It's a fantastic. You know how many times I have been to the Colosseum in my life, and I live in Rome. I've been only once, and I was there because friends of mine coming from California had tickets to a guided tour and bought one extra so I could go with them. I had never been inside the Colosseum before, and that was 2015 if I'm not mistaken. So when you are in Rome and you drive around and you go to your job, to university and stuff, and you go around and you see all these big monuments, ancient stuff, it's like you don't appreciate them, But being in a group of tourists, doing the tour of the heart of Rome and the ancient stuff, it made me understand how guys coming from outside feel. Because when I say I've never been there or I've been there only once, they say, are you crazy? You live in the beautiful city. And I say, well, okay, yeah, but I see this stuff every day, So I'm more
Is it-
concerned about the terrible public transportation and non-exist, the huge traffic problems. So, but yeah, I mean, they should do that there, and also, I mean, we should have. They should also, and I open and close a parenthesis. They should also scan the local racetrack Vallelunga, which they will never do, of course, because that's where Assetto Corsa has got their office where they do the game. So I don't
Right, okay.
think they will ever scan my local racetrack.
Oh, that's disappointing. Of course, I got Snetterton in. I live about 20 miles away from Snetterton, so that's me done for circuits. That's the only circuit within about 100-mile radius for me. But yeah, that's a bit disappointing. But hopefully we'll have more club circuits. I've really enjoyed Sukba so far. Marco has taught me his fantastic Japanese culture and language skills. How to pronounce that quite badly, unfortunately, I still haven't nailed it. But I'll get there eventually. Of course, we're going to Tsukuba next season, aren't we?
Yes,
That'll
triple
be
header
amazing.
there. So it's, I think, the second or third round of the season. So I think it's going to be basically this year's version of Okayama. I think early in the season, triple header. Yes, it's the second points paying round of the season because
Oh wow, okay.
Donington is non-scoring and Montreal is the proper first round of the season.
Oh
So
dear, Montreal, wow.
yeah, and if yeah, we were talking about the media day earlier, and yeah, if you want to get a preview, go watch that.
Yeah, that wasn't about Richard Warmingham won a round of that. And no criticism to Richard or anything, but he hasn't won any other rounds. It was quite chaotic. That was a pretty good round. Of course, well, have we pretty much done with CB? I think we don't really know too much about it, to be honest, seeing that we managed to miss it. Apparently, it was really good, though, as I've already elaborated on. So, we came to the final rounds of the championship. Brands
Yes,
Hatch, as
which
you're
is
just watching on the screen right now, the
yeah.
car's getting up. We can pretty much just shut up now and you can watch the race for yourself for the next hour or so. But of course, yeah, Brandon literally just needed to get some half decent results. It was probably the most dominant round of the season for XVR. Klusman wasn't really anywhere. Warming was pretty good. Unfortunately, we'd seen a few drivers drop out. We started off the season, like I said, with probably 10 properly quick drivers who could challenge for the championship. Unfortunately, we ended only with two. Hopefully, they'll improve next season, of course. But it was a nice way to round out the season, I think. Brandon and Foggy going properly at it. And I think it's a bit kind of anticlimactic, if the second place driver wins all three races and maybe casts a shadow over the title of the actual champion. But I think the fact that Brandon got the pole, got race one, got race two was properly impressive and the way that you want to win a championship.
Yes, absolutely. It was super quick, and once again, we have this is basically a tradition of the championship to have the final round of the season as a triple header in a very very small racetrack. We had Oran Park in season 4, we had Branzacci in season 5. We're going to have Snetterton in season 6, and I guess it's going to be either the 200 or is the 100 track in a racing?
Don't mention the 100 track, but that's
Okay,
that's not gonna work.
okay.
But the 200, yeah, that will be the one. That will be good actually. The 300, we had a round there. Of course, you weren't with us. That was back in March, I want to say. I commentated race one of that, and it was a bit dull. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah,
It's not fantastic on iRacing Snetson,
as much as I like the 200, it's like Brenzach. I love the Indy layout, and I really don't like the GP track, even though it has some fantastic corners. But I love the chaotic racing that the Indy layout provides, and at least Brenzach has got some undulation. So the problem with Snetterton is that the 300 track is so flat, and there are some corners which are you have to follow them. The 200 takes the boring bits out of the track and gives you the best stuff. So the hairpin, the long straight, that beautiful. I call it a chicane, but it's not a chicane under the bridge, where basically it's
Oh,
two
it's brilliant,
corners
yeah.
into one with a
Oh,
big
that in the
curve.
V8 is gonna be wow. You're gonna have to break pretty early for that one. That's gonna be insane.
Also, the very tough final corner that basically you have to brake whilst you are turning, which is a big no-no with every car, especially with this one, and a lot of passing opportunities. So I always love the 200 way more than the 300. It's going to be a fitting scenario for the season finale, and it has been Branzach a fitting finale as well. We had some very very nice racing, especially because the faster guys then had to come back in both race 2 and race 3 due to the reverse grids. So we saw some nice comebacks, and like you said, Tony Klusterman instead didn't have the best of meetings. He was there pace wise, but I think he had problems in all 3 races, contacts or spins or general misfortunes, and he wasn't able, I think, to properly finish his season. So maybe next season will be the right one for him. Of course, he is our secret agent in the championship. He gives us all the broadcast tips, the strategies, which we, however, continue to screw up regardless. So all his good job is
How?
undone. I was excited when the new build came out, because when the build came out, you can see that if you go into the pits and change the tires disappear and then reappear. But I've noticed that it is only for your car, not for the cars you are spectating, I think.
Oh dear.
So at the very least, I didn't see that happen in the radical race we did. So, or maybe it's only for the open wheelers. I have no idea. Maybe we'll know more tomorrow in the Apex Racing Formula Renault 3.5 series, which starts at 14 GMT, by the way, at Silverstone. Don't miss that, because it's going to be very interesting. Um, it's winter, so some series are in a bit of a break, but others are not, and they're starting once again. So yeah, tomorrow is going to be another nice day of racing. But back to the EuroV8s, and like I said, I was saying triple header, always a chance for chaos in a short track final round of the season, but that wasn't the case. For Johnny Brandon, he was able to have look at that. That was the first misfortune for Tony. Lapped car spinning in front of him and smashing his right front.
I must say,
John,
when I said that he needs dentures after that, I was so pleased with that. That's probably the high point of my season. Saying that quote. Sorry, Marco.
and also, well, we have to acknowledge, and Anthony Woodward is right. That also, the club championship came down to the wire, and it wasn't contested by many drivers, but the battle was very, very, very tough in that championship as well. It was I think around 8 drivers were fighting for the championship, with Richard Wormingham coming on top in the end, in front of. And I think also, basically after the first race, if I'm not mistaken, Anthony Woodward had a good result and Wormingham had a bad result. And basically the championship was open once again, but then in the second race, Woodward, I think, had a problem. He will probably correct me in the chat right now, but I remember it being this way, and that basically what gave the championship to Richard Wormingham in the end. So XVR got both of the driver titles, and of course they got the team championship, which is always nice.
Yeah, not bad that actually. But also in the team championship, just looking at the points out, it was a big difference. XVR got 8,700. Never Quit Racing 6,900. That was the North America team, and then the UK team 6,400. Evolution 6,400. ASEA 6,000. And then the second XVR. Green in 6th position with 4,700. So that's pretty good. We didn't pay too much attention to it, neither the club championship, because Warmingham had kind of, had it under control for the most part of the season. It was only quite late on, maybe where Anthony looked as though he could come back. That was a good championship. And then, of course, yeah, Brandon winning the title by, as I frantically look what the actual final score was in the end. 126 points between them, with Klosterman was 326 points behind. Then everyone else. McKnight was fourth. Missing a few of the final rounds. Also, Brandon got 8 wins compared to Foggy's 5 and Klosterman's 5 as well. So a few stats for you there. So I think in the end, Mike, I think Klosterman, 326 points behind, you can quite easily locate 326 points being lost. I think it's a bit similar to the F1 this season, I think, where you can identify 80 odd points that Vettel lost with mistakes and whatnot. And once again with Tony, if he could have just eradicated a few of those mistakes and maybe been a bit more consistent, he could have certainly fought for that championship right to the end.
Yes, absolutely. And we go back to what we said at the very beginning of this broadcast. The consistency. Consistency is absolutely key. And of course, like I said, drop rounds are important because Nicole didn't drop any of his rounds because he missed one. So you you want to get all the points in because then you can remove one bad round if needed. Maybe it was if he had all the rounds in and he dropped a very bad one, situation could have been different in the end. But we will never know, I think. And I tell you what, I absolutely agree with having the drop rounds. I also think. Well, I think Formula One should go back to the drop rounds as well, but that's another story.
Ooh, controversial. No, let's expand that because, of course, Prost lost the 88 title, of course, with drop rounds, but you think they should come back?
Yeah, I think they should come back because sometimes you have situations where the drivers, there are some races where they say, okay, I got 5 points, let's say, or 10 points or 15 points, and they get them in the back. But if the driver knows, okay, towards the end of the season, I've got this many points, and in the position where I am right now, I'm going to drop the points I score in this race regardless. Let's push a bit more, maybe get 2 more points, and I will not drop this round, for example. No, it made sense back in the days because you had major failures from the
Oh
cars
yeah,
every
yeah.
race, so it made sense. But still, I mean, it's a topic that it's very very worthy of a long discussion, and maybe some of the I have to be honest. I was alive for only 2 years of the drop rounds being in effect because I think from 1991 it was the year when they changed to the actual format. So I cannot say I remember it very well, but it's certainly something that Formula One has had for basically the bigger part of its existence. So, but cars not it wouldn't be a matter of reliability problems, but a matter of because these cars rarely break down nowadays. But a matter of they have to find a way to put these drivers in a position to risk more to produce a little bit more spectacle. Even though we saw some nice racing towards the end of the season, especially when everything was decided because the Brazil round was great, the Abu Dhabi racing unbelievably was decent. So we'll see what they are going to do next season, of course, with the new rules they are changing with the aero package. Maybe the only effect I fear it's going to have is to have a more powerful DRS. So yeah, that's another story. By the way, speaking of tomorrow, it's going to be interesting because the Formula Renault has got DRS as well, but you can use it whenever you want and only 8 times per race, no matter where you are. So it can be used to attack, it can be used to defend, and it puts a premium on strategy. So we'll see that very interesting tomorrow. Don't miss that.
Oh,
But
that's awesome. That's at
yeah,
Spa as well, so big DRS advantage, of course.
yes. Since there are no activation zones, you can use it wherever you want until you press the brake pedal, of course. Like just like Formula One, no? When you brake pedal press the brake pedal, the wing comes back down, no, for safety reasons, of course. So yeah, and you have only 8, so you have to think when to use them. And but you can defend. That's what something I really like about it. So going to be interesting tomorrow. Don't miss that. We have a very very nice starting grid lined up for tomorrow, and hopefully Sam will join us for the remainder of the season. But going back to this season, of course, like we said, Johnny Brandon was the winner. Then we had different awards, and Johnny Brandon won the KSW Cup, which was of course the main trophy. The team championship was won by XVR Racing. Like we said, the club championship was won by Richard Wormingham. Jimmy McKnight got the Safe Driver Award, and Johnny Brandon won the Fred Bingham Forever Forward Award. So we had basically Johnny Brandon having a fantastic season, picking up honors, race wins, and trophies basically every round, and also at the end of the season with 2 awards and of course the team championship. So a fantastic season for Johnny. What are you expecting from next season, Sam? Who are your favorite, and which races are you looking forward the most?
I'm actually going to have to get up the calendar now. But yeah, what am I expecting? Well, hopefully we're going to see a few top drivers back. Desperately want to see Doman Gantzar back. Really do, more than any other, I think. Because, he's got his strengths and he's got his weaknesses as Doman. But he's ever so fast. And, he was fantastic at Silverstone. It'd be great to have him along. Hopefully, Jamie McKnight will be back. I know he got a little bit frustrated by the end of the season, but if he could put up a decent challenge, and of course, hopefully we'll see Nick Foggy. He committed to last season, of course, um, apart from Summit Point, of course. So hopefully we'll see him back, and that rivalry with Brandon can reignite. In terms of rounds, I've loved racing around Super. I think Montreal's going to be good. Le Mans is going to be good. Imola. I like Imola. Okay, Nürburgring's going to be bad because I dislike that circuit. Zolder, Sonoma, Bathurst, of course. Charlotte Road, that's going to be a real tough circuit on the brakes in particular. And then, of course, Alton Park and Snetterton rounding out the season. So, yeah, for me at least, probably Montreal is the one that stands out. Tend to enjoy those sprint and feature races the most because you get some real intense action. So yeah, probably Montreal, but yeah, Suzuka and Le Mans are also going to be superb. So can be some start to the season, I'm sure. What about you, Marco?
Well, I was looking at the rule book released a few days ago for next season, and I can tell you that officially both Le Mans and Charlotte will start at 4 p.m. with an 8 time acceleration. So both enduros
Nice
will
one.
have a daytime, whilst the other rounds will have normal times. And also, for those that are curious about it, the Donington round will be contested on the national track. Tsukuba on the 2000 full, the one we had in the week 13 special. Nürburgring will be the one with the fast chicane. Sonoma will have the good Sonoma, the NASCAR version, with the one I like, the simpler one. Oulton Park Grand Prix and Snetterton 200. So I'm looking forward, of course, to the endurance race at Charlotte. It's going to be crazy, but also I'm looking forward to see these cars, scream at amazing speeds through the straights of Le Mans at night. With the race starting at 4 p.m., we are quite sure of having some night racing. Even we might go back to dawn at a certain point. It's going to be if they are going to put the same date as real life. It's going to be early February for the Le Mans race, so we are still in in regular time, not daylight saving here. So it's going to get dark quite early, and that's going to be interesting, of course. I'm very happy that Imola is in the calendar for the first time in a while. We have a round in Italy, which I can consider my own track, since Vallelunga is never going to beat Scand, and Imola has been the first place, the only place I've been to watch a Formula One race. Back when the dinosaurs were still roaming the earth in
Back when I
2002.
was 2002, I was 1 at the time.
Those were the days of the V10s. Yeah, I was
Ah,
13. That I just turned 13 a few days earlier. Yeah, but of course Tsukuba is going to be fantastic. I the only track I dislike of this bunch is Ulton Park, but not because it's a bad track, because I suck at Ulton Park. I suck everywhere,
fair enough.
but these guys can put on a show. Especially the Grand Prix track is very nice. I think the Grand Prix track also has a couple of chicanes on the backstretch, which could be passing / chaos opportunities. Zolder is a very nice track, even though it has got a lot of chicanes. Nürburgring is a okay racetrack. I think the calendar is absolutely nice. As for my favorite, uh, you know, knowing who is going to be in the series, and so far we know of the drivers that race this season, and they say that they are going to come back next season. I'm going to, I'd say this: if he's back for the full season, my favorite is going to be Nicole Foggy for the championship.
I think that's a good shout, honestly. I really think it is. I think at the start of this season, who did you call? I feel like you called Foggy
I
at the start of it,
absolutely
or it
have
may have been
no
Granton.
I have no recollection. I have to go
I,
back and check during
I think
the
it was
media
at
day.
Silverstone. Yeah,
Silver, I
yeah. I don't think it was even media day. I think it was Silverstone where I'm pretty sure I went for Klosterman. And I really do think if Tony can just eradicate the mistakes and drive how he did round probably 6 of the meetings this season and not the other 4 where he had his spins, he could definitely win the title. Well, I can't go for Foggy, can I? For next season.
you could. Why not?
Well,
Just
because
remember that
it'd
the
be a bit
commentator's
dull, wouldn't
curse
it?
will be twice as powerful, of course, if we both say foggy. So,
Or would it undo it? We
mm,
don't know the laws of this magic, do we?
we can certainly try.
Actually, did you see that video I put up the other day on Facebook with the highlights of that super race
No,
with our
I will
concert?
have to catch it.
Check it out. It's absolutely wonderful. You can It does not get old. Of course, anyone watching, of course, do check that out. We've got a lot of videos on our Facebook page, and we've had some nice little growth recently, so certainly do check it out. But yeah, well, I've got to pick someone, haven't I? Oh dear,
So
I will go for. I'll go for Klisterman again. I'm putting my faith in the
yeah,
Canadian.
I mean, he's the second favorite for me, and it's a very big, very nice pick. Our Facebook page is still up. I was concerned about a possible copyright strike by Formula One management because of the the reverse wheel music video with the Formula One opening. So
I was
hopefully,
thinking actually, YouTube a bit risky. Facebook should just about be okay.
yeah. I
And
mean,
of course, it is
if
identical as well, so they could get in trouble. Yeah.
I mean, it's still there, so hopefully they didn't notice it. Okay, so next season, like we said, it's going to start with the media day in the first week of January, and then next week we are back at it again with the start of the season, and after that, every fortnight, every 2 weeks, we are going to have a race, and the championship will be with us, will accompany us basically from January until June. So it's 6 months worth of racing, 5th of January to the 1st of June. So we're going to start when it's freezing cold, and we're going to end it where it's boiling hot, especially here in Italy. So it's a long championship, but not too long. So you don't you don't want to make mistakes. Let's put it this way. So these drivers will put on a fantastic show for us once again, and we thank you, of course. We thank the V8 Supercar, EuroV8 Supercar, of course, the sponsor KSW Painting, all the Western Mazda, and all the guys that make this possible. Because this series is, for those that are listening and they don't know what this series is, absolutely free to sign up, and the organizers and the sponsor are so nice they can put together the streaming. So support these guys. If you want to race with the V8s, just give them a shout on Facebook or on their Discord, and you will not regret it. And also, with the race meeting every 2 weeks, it's not that taxing. You don't have to race every day, or every week, or midweek. You race on Saturday, which is a nice day to race. And of course, like I said, all the guys are very helpful in setup work, driving wise. They will help you. So if you love this car, if you like me got this car and have no use for it, yes, think about having a race or two in the EuroV8 Championship. And also, you will get commentated by us, which I mean, that should be the premium selling point of racing in this championship.
Exactly. As long as we don't, endorse you and say that you're going to win, that would be
Yeah.
awful. You don't enter if you're good, basically. Otherwise, guarantee you will not win a race across the season and across the competition. It's absolutely superb. Community is great. And of course, season 6, sorry, it's coming up. Entries are well and truly open. Well, you don't really enter as such; you just join the league, and then yeah, join the sessions that you want to join. It's pretty cool, fantastic run league. I'll just add, of course, Clyde Whiting to that list of people that you mentioned, Marco. And yeah, just really thanks for everyone who's made this season 5 possible. It's been absolutely superb. And of course, we'll be back for season 6. And of course, if you like this type of video, certainly do let us know. It'd be pretty cool if we did a few of these, maybe one for each series or something, and maybe on some unrelated stuff as well. It'd be pretty cool. And of course, any feedback you can give, we'd super appreciate as well. But I think we'll probably wrap it up here. It's been how long has this been? We've been chatting for about an hour and a half.
Yes, 1 hour
Jeez.
and then 27 minutes. 28 as we speak right now.
It's flown by, I must say. Absolutely wonderful. Anyway, we'll probably see you back very soon. Of course, we've got a few broadcasts coming up this week. I'll be in the Radical on the. I'm fifth in. Not sorry. I'm sixth in the championship. Currently in the BSR Radical. Don't miss that. I'm second in the AM Championship as well. I finished. I got a fourth. I got a fourth the other day. I'm ahead of Foggy and Brandon in the championship. So get those guys. I know I can say that I know what I'm talking about. And yeah, certainly do check out our broadcast. And of course, as I've already said a few times, the EuroV8s will be back for season 6 on the 5th of January for the media day and the 12th for round 1. You do not want to miss it. So I think from me and from Marco, we'll sign off here and we'll hope to see you soon.